I wanted to ask you before we get into boxing, because I can see you're eating there. I've been following you on socials for a while. You still keeping in ridiculous shape. What's your advice? What are your secrets for staying in shape?
My one, I really bring my carbohydrates to a minimum. Very, very little sugar, very little carbs. I try to have as carb-free as possible diet. So lots of meat, lots of veg, and peanuts. And I find when let's say you eat 3,000 calories a day, usually, a third protein, fat, and carbs. What I'm doing is having 45% protein, 40% fat, and 10% carbs. So I'm having very, very little amounts of carbs. And I think my body runs so much better on it. And your body then goes pretty much ketogenic, where you're using your fat as an energy source. So when you need to burn, you're not burning the food you put in your belly, you're burning your fat that you want to get rid of. So I've just showed people in 2 weeks, I've lost 4.5% body fat and like 2.5 kilos in weight from just manipulating my food without training very hard at all. So as long as you're eating the right foods, good, nutritious, healthy food, I definitely think there's a formula that isn't that difficult to follow, that people will get their body into the shape they want it to be in.
That's really interesting. Looking forward to Saturday. You're doing punchy for DAZN for Dillian Whyte against Jermaine Franklin this Saturday, the 26th. Do you fancy Dillian to get back to winning ways?
I'm hoping so. I really am. It definitely wasn't his best night. He didn't go out in a blaze of glory against Tyson Fury last time out. It was a very technical affair. And he was ducked into a big uppercut. And that was that. It was a bit of jostling, bit of posturing, no real big punches landed till a bit uppercut. And then it's all over. So I'm hoping that he gets back to his winning ways. Remember, he's lost 2 of his last 3 by knockout. No, that's not an ideal run up into a fight against someone who's 21-0, 14 knockouts. But Dillian Whyte has got the experience. He's been there. He's fought guys that, there's nobody on Jermaine Franklin's record that is even remotely even close to being what Dillian Whyte was on his first pro fight. He's just so much a better fighter than anyone that Jermaine Franklin's fought. But that doesn't mean that Jermaine Franklin isn't that good. His handlers might be just very conservative with the opponents they select for him. Maybe they didn't want to scare anybody by putting any big names on his resume because people might start ducking him. So you never know until that first door rings. But, until I see someone beating a recognizable name, a bona fide name, who I know can fight, I pretty much disregard them as just another potential prospect.
Do you think the Fury loss will be living in Dillian's head still at all?
No, he'll be over that. He's been knocked out before. He gets over it. He's a warrior. Warriors get put down and they get back up. They dust themselves off. No, he's done it in the amateurs. Did it as a professional kickboxer. He's been there. He's seen it. He's done it. He's just about as much of a fighting man as you're going to get. So dust himself off. He'll come back again.
We don't know that much about Jermaine Franklin here in the UK. Do you think there's potential for him to cause an upset?
Any heavyweight with 21 fights unbeaten, 14 knockouts has power. Although the people he's knocked out might not be the best guys in the world, or you might not recognize their name, he's still a human being who's a professional boxer. He's had 21 professional fights and he's beaten every man he's faced. He has a chance if Dillian has his worst night ever and walks onto another uppercut. Obviously, it could go the other way, but until I see the first round where I can see what Jermaine's bringing to the table, it's hard to judge his talent on the opponents he's currently been fighting. And he's coming off a 2-year layoff also. He hasn't been in the ring for a while. So he's got some, how's he living his life? Is he living clean? Is he watching his food? Is he, we don't know anything about this guy, nothing. He's a completely and utter unknown. Other than the record he brings to the table, but I like that sound. Sometimes you get these guys coming out of nowhere and really performing,
If Dillian does get past Franklin, it's looking likely that his next fight is probably going to be against Anthony Joshua early next year. Given that AJ's off the back of 2 losses, do you think Dillian has a chance of overcoming AJ next year?
That would solely be down to how he disposes of Jermaine. He might not win against Jermaine. It's hard to look down the line. Oh, no. If he scrapes a majority decision against Franklin, gets dropped twice, I'd say no, his chances are not very good. If he goes out there and absolutely starches him, puts it on him from the first bell, grinds him down, beats him up, knocks him out, I think, okay, chances are a lot better now. So it solely depends on the way they fought. And obviously, Anthony Joshua's last 2 performances have been 2 back-to-back losses. So although Dillian's last fight was a big loss, getting back in, you're only as good as your last win. And a win over a 21-0 young prospect is better than coming off of a 6-round knockout defeat in front of 90,000 people in front of 2. Although you might have got paid a lot more for that, it's not that great for you, momentum coming
in. In terms of Anthony Joshua, there are a lot of people writing him off, mainly pundits and fans on social media. A lot of people writing him off as a spent force. What's your view on Anthony Joshua and where his career lies at the moment?
Theoretically, in my 11th fight, I got beat, and I was told my career was in tatters, that I didn't have the toughness to make it at the top level, blah blah blah. Three and a bit years later, I'm #1 in the world at that weight division at cruiserweight. Ranked #1, WBC, WBA, Ring Magazine belt. You can't listen to the naysayers. No, you have to have a mental mindset to do whatever it is you want to do, and regardless of what anyone else is saying, you got to stick to it. And I know Anthony Joshua is not a spent force. He hasn't been hit enough to be a spent force. To be a spent force, you have to be punched to bits. Looking at Louis Ortiz, for instance, that he looked like a spent force against Andy Ruiz Jr. He looked like someone who'd been to the well too many times in training, reflexes slowed down, punch resistance is now gone, and you're getting put down by shots that would have bounced off of you 2-3 years ago. He's not in that place right now. Ortiz is nearly 50, I think. That he's had a lot of training camps, all those hundreds of amateur fights, fighting in the Cuban championships when he was a kid. That is someone who's spent. Anthony Joshua is fresh. He just needs to tactically work on what he needs to work on, and he can still have an amazing career.
Another upcoming fight in the heavyweight division is, of course, Tyson Fury against Derek Chisora on December the 3rd. That's not a fight that a lot of people want to see. Is it one that you're interested in?
Yeah. But from a personal perspective, the plan was get Derek Chisora back into a position to fight for a world title. And when you look at where his career was a few years ago, you would have said no chance. But from consistency, even in his losses to Joseph Parker twice, to Usyk, even though he's lost a few of those fights, or to Dillian Whyte rematch, as long as you give a good account of yourself, as long as you leave it out there, the chances will come. And he was in the right place at the right time, and the opportunity came to fight Tyson Fury for the heavyweight title, and he's ready to go. So from a personal point of view, I'm very happy for Derek getting an opportunity to fight for a heavyweight title, because a lot of people didn't think it was on. I've always said that he has the ability still, even at his old age, to be able to maneuver himself into a position to get a world title fight, and he's done that. So I'm really proud of the fact that he's been able to hold it together, put enough winning performances on the road. You know, his fight against Pulev, very, very entertaining fight. He went out there, he was in great shape. You know, he reconnected with Don Charles, his old coach. It was great to see the whole team back out there working as a unit. And he went out there and performed. And for me, that, you know, obviously that is the most important thing. But obviously, as a fan, when you're expecting Tyson Fury to be fighting Anthony Joshua, because that's what we're talking about, or Usyk, and then you're told, no, it's not that. It's actually Derek Chisora. I can see why they're like, okay. I can see why the hardcore boxing fans may feel, you know, a little shortchanged.
How likely, in your opinion, are we likely to see Fury versus Usyk next year, Fury versus AJ next year? Do you think they're both likely to happen?
I don't know. Probably not. The way things are going, it doesn't feel like everybody wants to fight everybody. It feels like everyone says they do, but they don't really want to. Just a lot of posturing from a lot of people, and whilst everyone's posturing, everyone keeps fighting people who no one cares about. It's like a little bit frustrating for boxing fans at the moment. Really is very, very frustrating. I always like the best, sort of fighting the best, obviously, and it doesn't happen that often. But fingers crossed, someone's going to get it together and make it happen.
Do you think that's why we've seen such a growth in influencer exhibition fighting, particularly with DAZN and Misfits boxing? You know, we've got KSI against Dillian Dennis coming up in January as well. Do you think that's grown and become so successful because people are getting a bit annoyed by the best not fighting the best in traditional boxing?
No, not all. I don't believe the YouTube boxing is affected by the quality of fights in professional boxing at all, not even 1%. I think it's just a new demographic coming into a sport which is much bigger than the hardcore boxing fan demographic. And when one of those guys, when a KSA fights, if he fights Jake Paul, and even if Andrew Tate gets into it as well, you're getting guys with huge social media and celebrity profiles boxing each other, whatever rules they, big gloves and 2-minute rounds, whereas that is making more money because there are more people willing to pay for it. And at the moment, more people would want to pay for Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, but other events that were being dished up won't. And these YouTube fighters who have massive social media followings have found a way where they can kind of bypass the hardcore boxing fans and just say, right, this is it. Even like Floyd Mayweather the other night, you know, fighting someone who would never be probably good enough to be one of his sparring partners whilst he was boxing. You know what I mean? It was, I know, it's like, I know, he had a good go, but it was an exhibition of boxing. And people need to understand it's not in competition with professional boxing. They're two completely different things altogether. You know, they're two separate entities, and people try and converge the two. And I don't see it that way. I just see boxing's boxing, and boxing could be bigger, could be better, could be competing more if people were fighting people. But for whatever reason, nobody wants to fight anybody, and they always blame everybody else. This promoter blames that promoter. This fighter blames the other television network. I said this. I gave you a deadline here. You didn't. But whatever it is, it's like, oh, whatever. Just let us know when you've signed the fights, and we'll tune in. But until then, trying to tune out of it all because I keep getting excited. I keep hearing these little news articles about a fight close to getting made, and then it doesn't happen. I'm like, oh.